Thank you for joining us today for a NIAPR short video on outreach and engagement, building connections on the path to recovery. This short video is designed for anyone working with individuals and looking for ways to maximize outreach and engagement practices in order to better support those you work with to be able to become more active partners in their recovery relationship with you. The video will have a particular focus on conducting outreach and engagement with people residing in long-term care facilities, such as state psychiatric centers and adult care homes. For anybody who doesn't know us, we are the New York Association of Psychiatric Rehabilitation Services, otherwise known as NIAPRS. We are a network and partnership of providers and participants throughout New York State with the mission of improving the services and lives of people impacted by psychiatric and trauma-related conditions. To introduce myself, my name is Perrin Dudiger, and I am the Training and Technical Assistance Facilitator for NIAPRS for the Hudson River and North Country Territory of New York State. I'm a social worker with varied experience in the human services field. I've also been a speaker on mental health awareness for about a decade in my home community, having the mission of ending the silence and stigma surrounding mental illness and trauma. I'm also a passionate nature and mindfulness enthusiast. This video is made for the PROS Adult Home Outreach and Curriculum Project. We are extremely proud to support the PROS community to assist people living in adult homes to be independent. Please visit our website at pros.niaprs.org, and there you'll find information on financial reimbursement for outreach. You're also going to find several curricula that were designed specifically for this project for people living in adult homes or state psychiatric centers to develop and maintain their independence. Our learning objectives are to review effective outreach strategies for use with individuals who may have limited experience with independent living and/or community integration, to identify practical engagement skills to build a trusting, recovery-oriented relationship, and to identify techniques to overcome obstacles to engagement and enhance individuals' participation in services. It's important for us to start off with the foundation of the question, why? Why is our work in helping engage individuals towards more independent living so important, and why has it become a priority for us in our work? Well, other than the fact that helping individuals achieve more independence in their life is more likely to lead them towards a life of joy, fulfillment, and meaning, we can look towards court case law and government initiative, which helps further our aim. The story of the Olmstead case begins with two women who had mental illness and developmental disabilities and had been voluntarily admitted to a state psychiatric unit in Georgia. Following these women's medical treatment there, mental health professionals stated that each was ready to move to a more community-based program. However, these women remained confined in the institution, each for several years after the initial treatment had been concluded. These women filed suit under the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, for release from the hospital. In 1999, the U.S. Supreme Court held in Olmstead v. LC that unjustified segregation of persons with disabilities constitutes a discrimination and violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. In addition, the New York State Office of Mental Health, or OMH, is committed to supporting individuals with serious mental illness with living in the most integrated setting. OMH believes that individuals with these illnesses who currently reside in adult homes and state psychiatric centers can live in less service-intensive settings if they desire, and so long as arrangements are made for needed physical and behavioral health services. As helping professionals, it then becomes imperative that we assist the people we work with to achieving more independence in their lives. So you might be thinking to yourself right now, wait, can they really be independent? That question is very common for many providers, as it is also a very prevalent question individuals who have spent much time living in a long-term supervised care facility may also ask of themselves. We may have had many experiences in our work in which we have felt deflated and skeptical about people's ability to reach a higher level of potential, including independent living. We may have been hearing about very high levels of dependency and intensive care for people that have had histories living in these settings. We often encounter people with a multitude of complex needs that may include physical, medical, cognitive, developmental, serious mental illness, and substance use issues. These various challenges faced by those living in adult homes and state psychiatric centers may lead us to put very limited expectations on some people we serve, or we may set the bar very low. When we talk about these individuals achieving independence, we may have an automatic reaction of disbelief or hopelessness. We may feel that a recovery agenda that includes independence may even be cruel by expecting too much of people that have no ability to reach these higher levels of self-sufficiency. However, we are going to encourage you to step outside of this belief system, or to suspend your doubts and make room for the possibility that people can supersede our expectations. We are asking you to open your mind to the idea that perhaps with the right support, with a person that believes in somebody's potential, many people can and will surprise you. This is the humility we must practice. As Dr. Pat Deegan, pioneer and leader in the recovery movement, has said, it is our job to ask people with psychiatric disabilities what it is they want and need in order to grow, then to provide them with good soil in which a new life can secure its roots. And then it is our job to wait patiently, to sit with, to watch with wonder, and to witness with reverence the unfolding of another person's life. How do we move towards greater independence? And what does independence look like? It varies greatly for all individuals. There are different levels and aspects of independence, but our goal is to find out how to maximize a person's autonomy and self-direction for them to be able to live their fullest life and reach their highest potential, affording the dignity of risk and right to fail. This concept, coined by Pat Deegan, is explored in our other short webinar called Operationalizing Recovery. Striving for community integration, feeling connected. As human beings, we are deeply social beings and we need to feel like we belong. Thinking about how a life of institutionalization can isolate people. It can take time for people to be comfortable interacting with the wider world outside of treatment facilities. It takes time to build up confidence and a sense of self-efficacy. Moving beyond just interacting with treatment providers, living in a landscape of human services where people are surrounded only by people that are paid to be with them and other recipients of services, towards developing natural supports, relationships with friends, families, and others in the community, being a connected, contributing member of the community, and cultivating methods of self-care and wellness self-management, helping people find the right tools for their own healing and wellness, which may include RAP planning and even peer support services. When working with individuals who have developed a sense of learned helplessness, it's important to recognize that this may be a more gradual process than we'd like. It may take a person many years or even a lifetime to have internalized this conditioning, but we must keep hope alive. We must keep our focus on the wider vision, which is the goal of increased independence, and we must walk alongside somebody throughout that journey, making an effective plan for helping a person work towards and achieve their goals, actualizing their dreams, and planning for their wellness and recovery. It all begins with reaching out and being able to effectively engage somebody. In order to better understand the process, let's take a look at the nature of change. Change is such a fundamental aspect of life, yet it's so scary for so many of us who enjoy being in our comfort zone and feel very challenged when we're pushed outside of it. Wanting and not wanting change at the same time is often called ambivalence, and it is a very natural part of the human experience. So, as we've previously explored the concept of learned helplessness as referring to the idea that people learn to be helpless or dependent, many have spent most or all of their life being in highly supervised institutions. This lifetime of conditioning can be very challenging to break free of, and we must respect and honor that. To explore control and dependency issues, having a person imagine how life could be different than it has in the past, we may ask these exploratory questions, such as, what would life be like if you could make your own choices, your own decisions? Exploring and creating awareness and helping people see the dissatisfaction of the status quo, we may ask questions such as, what would you have imagined your life to be if you weren't in this place? What would be different every day for you? What is it about your life right now that isn't happening because you live here? As we mentioned, the movement from contemplation to planning may need to occur gradually. Once people's motivation towards change builds and their readiness becomes more apparent, we can ask them questions such as the following. What would have to be different between now and then for that to happen? And you say these things are important and that you value them, but you are still in this situation. That last statement points out a person's discrepancy between what they want and their current situation and allows for further exploration into their own motivation and planning towards change. What is engagement? Engagement refers to the process through which people become active and involved in their treatment or care. People who have been perpetually institutionalized may have significant difficulty transitioning from the role of a passive participant in their care to an empowered and active partner. In our pursuit of engagement and creating collaborative partnerships with the folks we serve, we can take a look at some of the key elements that make up the motivational interviewing model, a model created by psychologists William Miller and Stephen Rollnick. The real spirit of motivational interviewing, or MI, is the relational aspect, involving the creation of a safe, supportive partnership in order to explore a person's values, goals, and intrinsic motivation to change. These key elements are collaboration, evocation, and autonomy. Many people in our field still use a confrontational approach, which is in direct opposition to the MI model. To show collaboration, working in partnership with a person, we take a step back and join a person. It's captured in an atmosphere that's conducive to change, never coercive. In evoking a person's intrinsic motivation to change, we help to draw out the wisdom, insight, and reality that a person already possesses, the internal resources that are residing within the person, and helping them elicit their own motivation towards change. The opposite is when we try to educate people. We are based on an assumption that the person lacks knowledge, wisdom, and skills, and it's our job to impart that knowledge on the person. And finally, we can practice autonomy by affirming a person's right and capacity for self-direction. The opposite of this is when we take a stance of authority, where we feel that we know best as expert and we should tell the person what to do. So how do we help people to believe in themselves? The positive personal profile can be a powerful tool to help people see their positive attributes and build self-efficacy. These are powerful questions. By working with people to uncover their positive qualities, we're supporting a person in recognizing their strengths. This is important for all of us, every single human being, to really take stock of what makes us so unique and resilient. Discovering these answers can really help someone transform their self-perception and ultimately the course of their life. It can help build their self-efficacy, which is critical, especially for folks who have been so disempowered by the multiple systems they may have been involved with. They may generalize failure on themselves and everything they've tried to do in their lives. This process is profound in its ability to facilitate connection and trust. It's a major shift from a deficits-based assessment or focus. It makes people realize how resilient they are in the face of all the adversity they've experienced. So here are some examples of questions you can use with people. You may even want to create a form based on these questions to help people work on building a positive personal profile. Additionally, sometimes it's difficult for folks to identify their hopes, dreams, values, and meaning in their life if they have not had real opportunities to explore these things, perhaps for a very long time. Using these questions on the screen can help a person explore their own personal values, what really matters to them in life, what brings them meaning and purpose, and maybe thinking back to a time in their life when they may have been happier. What are some barriers we may face to engaging with people? We may separate some of the barriers that we may face to engaging folks that we work with into two categories: the concrete obstacles and the perceptual obstacles. For the folks that we work with who may be moving towards more independent living goals, the location of new facilities might bring up the concern of being able to visit people and not wanting to be far from home. Access to transportation might also be something that folks have difficulty navigating, as well as complex systems. In addition, people might have extensive medical and physical health care needs, difficulty focusing or concentrating, and limited social skills. The perceptual obstacles might include things like stigma, or what we call self-stigma, where a person starts to internalize these beliefs, such as, I am too old, too ill, incompetent to be able to engage others, or the belief that others won't accept me. People might have a fear that a new environment will be too overwhelming for them. They might experience a lack of trust in professionals from previous experience in the mental health care system, a lack of confidence in their ability to build new relationships with others, or a fear of being pressured into unfamiliar situations and having new, added expectations or pressures put on them. Based on the research findings on barriers to engagement, we can see that not all barriers are equal. The perceptual barriers we spoke about, things such as stigma, as well as prior negative experiences and treatment, have been shown to have the greatest influence on engagement. Addressing these perceptual barriers may be much more important than focusing only on the concrete obstacles. Concrete obstacles can sometimes be easier to overcome than the perceptual obstacles, with program flexibility, awareness of community resources to help people navigate independent living, as well as skills teaching and ongoing support every step of the way. Coming from a strength-based approach, how do we adjust our approach and meet a person where they're at while also helping to instill hope in recovery and a more independent living situation? Our initial approach should not be intrusive. We should introduce ourselves and state what we hope to accomplish, differentiating ourselves from other treatment providers, and showing a genuine interest in wanting to get to know somebody and their story. Meeting the person where they're at by sharing the little things, what we might consider the more mundane things, and engaging in small talk, such as, what did you buy today shopping? This allows us to really connect with people and build trust over time. Having these basic conversations builds rapport and builds people's comfort level with you. By jumping into larger goals too fast, we can cause a fear reaction, which creates disconnection and ambivalence. We can focus on people's strengths, the supports they already have. The challenge may be that they are isolated from their families. People may feel alone. Even residing in a residential facility, they may be isolated from the other residents. They may have a habit of isolating. So introducing the concept of friendships, using each other, creating groups within these facilities, and building connections within, helping people to see their common interests and values within this group context, which might later help them with socialization in the community. So in our ultimate task of real community integration and inclusion, it becomes our role to help build people's natural supports. Those are the relationships and connections with others and groups within the community, not just in the landscape of the human services, is having a discussion with people about what it would be like to get out of an adult home or state psychiatric center, which might be all that a person knows. It's helping to open up their world with the aim of not just connecting them to a human service program. For instance, the goal is not just an admission to a PROS program, but to really have a fuller life, opening up their world by exploring their interests, such as maybe spirituality and faith-based communities, their sports and other recreational activities of interest, what's important to them culturally, socially, and politically, and connecting them to peer supports. So for instance, instead of just encouraging somebody to get involved with an event or a club within a human service program, it's helping them explore what's already existing in the community, such as taking a pottery class, getting involved in a chess club, getting involved with a political activist group that already exists in the outside world. This really helps somebody open up to the world of possibilities that exists outside of the human services. Here are just some examples of the types of questions we can use to assist somebody in exploring possibilities of connections to natural supports in the community. So expanding on this idea of helping people live a full life, helping move from an identity from patienthood to personhood and develop a real connection to life, we can see that so many people feel socially isolated. In the UK, a minister of loneliness was actually appointed recently after the country discovered that so many of their population reported loneliness that it turned out they see it as an epidemic. We know that for folks that have resided in long-term care facilities, this social isolation may very well be exaggerated. We need to help people move from their symptoms into a full life, helping capture their real interests, what gives them purpose, why should you get out of bed? And it shouldn't just be to take medication or to go to a treatment program, but how to really connect to what matters to you. That's where the connection begins. Everything we've spoken about in terms of engagement can be boiled down to the concept of connection. Brené Brown, a personal hero of mine, a social worker, qualitative researcher, acclaimed author, and speaker, says that connection is the energy that exists between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued, when they can give and receive without judgment, and when they derive sustenance and strength from the relationship. She says that we are wired in every way, biologically, neurologically, psychologically, emotionally, to be connected to other people, to feel a sense of belonging. As part of the Systems Transformation Division at NIAPRS, we are the NIAPRS Collective, a team dedicated to increasing organizational and program-level systems transformation among OMH licensed and funded programs. We travel around New York State providing training and technical assistance services. The collective team works with providers to assist you in implementing recovery-oriented practices, creating a learning environment that challenges mindsets, strengthens skills, and builds a foundation for recovery-oriented, person-centered, trauma-informed, and culturally competent care. Our services are offered at your site and are individualized to meet your specific program needs. We encourage you to reach out to NIAPRS, and we will be sure to get you in touch with the facilitator in your region who can provide you with additional information regarding our menu of training offerings.